dreams, which right there, that's a red flag. When somebody shows up and they too perfect, you kind of like, why are you so perfect? Right. And she lost $1 million or something, or like almost a million, lost her whole entire retirement account. And it was really fascinating in the sense that I wanted to kind of explore that because there's a whole, believe it or not, there's a whole theory behind this. Because it relates to what I refer to as like the Diddy phenomenon too. If you remember, Diddy was able to exploit people by basically leaning on somebody's dreams or their personal greed or desire, and sometimes people will package. Some people would rather believe a good lie than an inconvenient truth, right? Some there are some people who would rather have you tell them a beautiful lie than to tell them a truth that is still pretty good, but is not as perfect as the lie. And there are people who kind of master this. I think I remember I told you about the fat guy that was in my brother's fraternity who had all the girlfriends and stuff, and people were like, "How do you get all those girls?" And he literally said he just sells them a dream. He gives them their greatest fantasy, and they fall for it because everybody believes life's a fairy tale. I personally think that that's a little bit of a problem, and it links to finances because there are people that exploit that. My friend, she went to Harvard. She's super smart, and she dated a guy that one of my friends referred to as a hobosexual. And I said, well, what's a hobosexual? She said it's like one of those guys that just wants to date successful black women because they have plenty of money and good jobs and good credit and everything else. And personally, where I come from, men like that are don't get respect. But there are men out there like that, and it's not just the men, it's the ladies too, right? Sometimes you have men that will lose lots of money. In fact, actually, OnlyFans, I think they made $6 billion last year or something like that. And like the lady who took all of Shannon Sharp's money, she now has more wealth than I think about 90% of all the HBCUs in America at the age of 21, and she's probably making $1 million a month, online. Let's just say that she's a content creator. She's creating content. It's called content. Anyway, so let's jump into this. All right. So first and foremost, before I start on that, I want to um I want to show you all something. How many of y'all own Oklo? Any Oklo shareholders up in here? How many of y'all know the big news about Oklo? Anybody? Patricia, I know. Okay, I see Patricia. I see you, Patricia. Who else? Linda, Steven, Kimberly. Yeah, Oklo. Oklo's kind of like the stock we've adopted. It's like a adopt a stock kind of thing. And Oklo just spiked up. Like I mean, if I was being funny today, I'd call that like the morning wood or something. But that's an inside joke because some of y'all got kids listening. And I ain't trying to be weird. But anyway, look at that though. That's pretty amazing, right? And I explained that on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And I mean, come on now, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about with the morning, because that's how you got them kids. Like, stop it, stop pretending, stop playing. Anyway, with that said, though, Oklo shot up today largely because they just made a deal with Meta. And when you do big business with big companies with big money, big things popping, little things stopping, Oklo's now popping back up to 115. You saw that it slumped a little, but remember, we started talking about this stock when it was 13, $14. And so the adventure of owning a stock is the excitement of kind of like seeing when it goes up and when it goes down and goes up and goes down. And that's what happens. You like New Edition song, Can You Stand the Rain? Through the good times and bad times, you will always be right here, right? So really, you have the good times with the stock, you have the bad times. So Oklo's had some really good times. Some of y'all were buying back when it was $15, $20 a share, and you made an insane amount of money. You saw it go up to 171. You saw it crash down to 89 or 90, which is still phenomenal though. And you guys know about things like put options, which can protect your investment. If you don't know about put options, feel free to join us at the Stock Options Summit, and you'll know all about it after this weekend. I'll give you the link in a minute. But now it's had a little bit of a pop, and that's largely because they just made a big deal with Meta apparently. and the Department of Energy also. So this gives me faith in the stock. I've owned it, and I sold a little bit when it was at the top. I told you all about my strategy with that. But ultimately, this is what it means to own a stock. It's like it really is. It really is like a relationship or a marriage. You're gonna have good days and bad days, and so in the very beginning, you got to kind of make a decision, like either I'm in it or I'm not in it, and and that's are you is you in or is you ain't? Like is you is or is you ain't? Are you in or are you out? If you're in it on a set of investments, just be prepared because the stock market will give you a roller coaster. But the reason the roller coaster typically is worth it is because the good outweighs the bad. I wrote my whole dissertation on the stock market, which if you don't know what that means, a dissertation is this 150-page document with nothing but math. At least mine was, and you have to read thousands of research papers and really know the science so well that you can't just regurgitate information. They don't give you a PhD for knowing a topic. Lots of people know. Master's degree students know the topic. You have to expand the field of knowledge. That's a whole different standard. You have to literally know damn near everything that there is to know. And then you got to say, oh, I figured something else out that you can now add to the body of knowledge. If you do not add to the body of knowledge in a given field, they will not give you a legitimate PhD. Now, this does not count for honorary doctorates or those PhDs people get, when they do the 6-week programs and stuff. I don't know where those come from. This comes from 5 years of consistent rigorous hazing by faculty who scrutinize every single thing you do and make you do more work than is humanly possible. And I can tell you, as a person who's done that with the stock market, the number one rule is stay in the course. You got to be in it. So what it happens is investing is more of a measure of emotional intelligence and resiliency as it is a measure of knowledge or access to resources or being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Right? Everybody wants to summarize it up to like, oh, well, he's rich because his daddy gave him money, or you just got lucky, or you went to college and I didn't. No, if you got guts and the ability to woosah your way through a situation, if you are able to stick to things and stay till the story ends, then that's how you get these good moments. You don't get the good without going through the bad. You don't get the bad without going through the good. That's what it is. And the good, you just know when you go through a good moment, you're gonna have some bad ones coming. And when you go through a bad moment, the good ones are coming, and that's what you stick around for. If you're not ready for all that, then don't make the investment. Just back up. There's nothing saying you have to enter that relationship. So when we talked about Oklo, and I mentioned to you all, how many of y'all know this? Give me a guess if you know that I do not give investing advice. I just like to reiterate that every now and then. I am not an investment advisor. I'm a finance professor. So give me a yes if you understand this is not investing advice. My goal is not to tell you what to do. My goal is to tell you enough so that you know how to tell you what to do. That's going to be on you. Personal responsibility. That's on you. Okay. But I will tell you what I'm doing. And I bought a lot of Oklo. I invest a lot of my family's money in this company because there was a simple thesis. The thesis is that AI is going to eat up a lot of energy. Oklo does energy. Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, is a heavy investor in Oklo. So that became my thesis. It's like, okay, why not? Right? Why not? So it looks like it's making money. So congratulations if you're making money. And I see Miss China Doll says she says, my mom loves you. She's in the hospital right now. My mom had Oklo. She perked up when you said Oklo. Well, shout out to your mama and shout out to Miss China Doll for shouting out your mama. We all love our mamas, and my mama, right before she passed last year, she was in the hospital a lot. So my heart goes out to you and your family, and I hope your mother gets better. So send her my love, please. All right. So anyway, let me show you all something. I saw this thing. Oh, before I forget, here's the link to the Stock Options Summit if you want to join us this weekend. We start Saturday at 11 a.m. Everything's yours for life as usual, just like how we do things in the Black Business School. And you can bring your whole family. You don't have to pay for if you bring 3 people, you ain't got to pay for 3 people. Just pay for one, and that's your entry fee for everybody because we educate the whole family. All right. So there's the link right there. Feel free to join us tomorrow. Right now, let me show you all this video. This was really interesting and a little bit disturbing, but there's so much information here in terms of what this lady's experience is. And she basically met a guy online, and let's just say it didn't work out. And I'm gonna share my screen. And she's a smart lady, really smart lady. And so let me pull this up. Let me go in and pop in. Okay, so let me know. Give me a yes if you can hear this. I'm gonna play this video. So let me know if you can hear this. This is on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance. So I'm gonna share my screen. In three, two, one, and well, hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. Let me check something. Make sure my settings are set properly because y'all know how I am with the technology. I mess it up sometimes. All right, so here we go. Give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear this video, and I'm gonna play it now.
We're planning this life together.
I wanted to make sure you got access to that platform we talked about.
He went to great lengths to gain my trust.
By the time you suspect something is wrong,
It was shock. My money was gone.
what would you do? Jackie's story is a heartbreaking example of just how sophisticated and cruel romance scams are. What feels like genuine connection is really calculated manipulation. Jackie's not alone, and her story is a stark reminder of how hope can be weaponized in the wrong hands.
So at this particular time in my life, I was 59 years old, and I had all the things that you work 40 years for, saving for your retirement. And there was just that one thing missing, being so busy, is someone to share it with, or, just a companion. Now, I had never done online dating, but I was willing to give it a try. I got on the site, one of my best friends talked about late May of 2023. I did see someone who I was like, oh my goodness, he had beautiful, blue eyes. So I reached out and I was like, oh, I like your eyes, as a compliment. He reached right back out to me. We began to communicate. He was like, oh, I really like you. He was pretty insistent about how much he cared for me so soon. He told me that, he was a widower and he had 2 small boys. He had lost his wife and was raising these boys, stayed at home with them with COVID. And that's how he got really good with crypto. He was in construction and he was on this super secret government job. And we talked at least 4 or 5 times a day. I worked long hours. Food would appear, 20 minutes later. You know how that made me feel? This person really cares about me because, I don't have to come home and cook after a long day. And there were trinkets and pillows, and there's a necklace with my picture on one side and his on the other. He went to great lengths to gain my trust and get my guard down. I started to think of this is someone who I could spend my life with. And that's how he also, planned it as we were planning this life together. That was part of the trust. And then came the talk of investment. Not pushy at first, just kind of, did you know about it? I think that was 2 months after. That was when I first went and borrowed $40,000 for my 401k. Once the money leaves my bank account, you do a wire transfer to Bitcoin. He started sending me, which ended up being fake, but they were statements of this coin cluster, which he told me is an account that you hold your Bitcoin in and where all the profits go. The first statement he gave me of his was like he had invested $170,000 and he had already had $2 million.
Hello, beautiful. I'm gonna be sending you a check for $100,000. A payment just came in from a big job.
And he says, we're gonna use it for investment for our future. A week later, I did get this $100,000 check and there was a person's name on it. So I questioned him. I'm like, who is this person? Why are they sending you this check? He's like, oh, she owed me money from construction work that I did. It all he was always a step ahead. I told my girlfriend, I'm like, oh my God, I got this $100,000 check. I don't know if it's real. We're planning this life together.
I wanted to make sure you got access to that platform we talked about.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there. Basically, it ends with her, and the videos on YouTube, but basically it ends with her losing about $1 million, and she actually took withdrawals out of her 401k, which I don't think that's a great idea. And next thing you know, she finds out that what she thought was true really isn't true. And I when I see this video, I saw really a display of the impact of consciousness and how it overlaps with your finances. And what all the studies show, and I thought about this deeply when I wrote my book Financial Lovemaking 20 years ago, is that when someone's in love with you, or when you're in love with someone else, you're not rational. Basically, all the dopamine flooding your brain, phenylethylamine, oxytocin, all that really drives you to irrational decisions, right? And this was a journey I had 25 years ago. Actually, when I was about 28, 29, I said, why is it that when we're in love, we just go crazy? Or why does jealousy just overtake you so badly? I did not like jealousy. Jealousy just seemed like a weird emotion. I didn't understand it. Like, how am I going to really make sure that no other man is ever with this woman? That's not even rational. Like, that don't even make no damn sense, right? So I studied these things, and and it was really fascinating. And so what I observed over time is that there are parties where people will manipulate the emotion of a perhaps less conscious person, and they're completely rational, and you're all starry-eyed and in love with that politician or with that person online or whatever, and they're just kind of playing you like a fiddle and manipulating that, right? And this is obviously unethical, but it happens all the time. And so basically with this woman, she's in love with the guy. He knows all the right things to say, and she's like, finally, I've met, the man of my dreams. And who knows, maybe, I mean, sometimes people will pass up a good person who's flawed, and but honest, or in exchange for someone who appears to be perfect, who is just creating whatever illusion that you want to see. I had a relative, somebody in my own family years ago, and he was a tall, handsome guy, and I saw him meet women, and he would never tell them his real name. They would date him for 6 months, 9 months, and not even know his name. He'd have a fake ID. He'd make up a whole backstory that was really fascinating. He'd pretend to have all this money, and they all fell for it. And I remember just thinking, man, this is terrible. Like this, what's going on here? So this happens a lot. This is a real thing. So here are some things that romance scammers use to pull people in. I see that happen to men and women. I had a friend who was a mentor of mine, and he met a nice, beautiful lady, and they lived in Africa, and she, and she had this whole. She looked so perfect on paper, and I remember looking at, and he showed me everything. I said, dude, that's a scam. Like, I said, that's not a real person. Like, I said, just wait till she asks you for money. I said, has she asked you for money yet? He said, no, she's got her own money. I said, no, she's going to ask you for money at some point. It's going to be an emergency or something. And then about 3 weeks later, she did ask for money. He said, yeah, I saw that. And it woke him right up, right? So this is actually one of the tips that they give for people that sort of meet something that's too good to be true. When you're being pulled into something, whether it's somebody trying to sell you something, or someone online trying to sell you something else. A lot of times, bringing in that third party that's rational, it's like a drunk person talking to a sober person, and the sober person saying, "No, no, no, you're just a little bit drunk, and this is not really what's happening." So, some tactics that these romance scammers use. One is love bombing. You probably heard that, where they overwhelm the target with lots of affection, attention, talk about the future, making all these plans that are never going to happen. And what that does is it creates emotional intoxication. So logic kind of goes out the window because the fantasy feels so good. And some of us are very, if you're very vivid and you can imagine things, then you can almost live a whole alternate reality that doesn't exist yet. That's why and it works really well on women because I didn't understand. I spent time when I wrote Financial Lovemaking, which, by the way, you guys can have a free copy of the book. If you go to boyceandalicia.com, you can have a free e-copy. If you want a hard copy, there's a small fee for that, but you can order that in my bookstore, but you don't have to do that. You can get the e-copy for free. Just go to boyceandalicia.com. Anyway, one of the things that I remember noticing is that when you have that intoxication, the logic kind of drops down, and also with women and men fall in love differently. Men were more visual, that's why the OnlyFans and all that stuff is making billions of dollars, whereas the women can like read romance novels and hear a story, and the story can have an effect on the woman. I never understood that. I was like, why are romance novels so popular? It doesn't make sense, right? But there's something about the context and the story. So there are people that are great storytellers that will use that to get what they want, right? Um, Manufactured intimacy. So this is when they fast track various forms of vulnerability, like trauma, sharing secrets, using spiritual language. You see this a lot with pastors. So pastors are really good with. I mean, pay attention. A lot of you have a male pastor with a whole congregation that's 90% female because the men are sitting back like this, like I see right through this. This drug is not working on me. Whereas the women are like, oh, I do whatever Mr. Pastor says. And if you've seen a bad pastor that misuses that power, that's when this man that got half the front row pregnant. He did all kinds of took everybody's money and all right. So this happens, right? So manufactured intimacy, spiritual language, sharing secrets, creating a false sense of deep connection or destiny, almost like we're destined to be together, that kind of thing. In fact, in that lady's video, I read some of the texts on the video, and there were text messages where he's like, "I don't know about you, but this just feels so real, and you just want to run with it. I know it's crazy," and she's like, "Yeah, it's so crazy, but we're just supposed to be in love," and it's kind of sad. It sucks. It's sad. All right. Another one is authority positioning. They present themselves as successful, knowledgeable, or spiritually evolved, subtly training the target to defer judgment and trust their guidance. So you've seen a lot of cases of spiritual gurus being, sort of caught doing, ridiculous stuff, and so so moving on, isolation tactics. The manipulator will encourage a lot of secrecy and suddenly discredit their friends or family, and they'll frame the outsiders as jealous, negative, or not aligned with the relationship. So a lot of people that get abused or manipulated, the abuser will disconnect them from the support system because that's the thing that will make them sober. So you want to, keep them drunk. So you say, "Hey, let's move to Alaska," and your friends and family, they're just terrible people. And the Bible says that I'm your husband and I'm supposed to be the most important person in your life. And unfortunately, that's a lot of power to give to the wrong person. I don't think she got her money back, Ginger. I think that money's gone. Um, what else? Let's see here. Scarcity and urgency. So a lot of times, this was interesting. Did anybody see The Tinder Swindler? Did anybody watch that on Netflix? That was really good. Watch if you haven't seen it yet. You get bored on a Friday night. You want to be entertained. Watch The Tinder Swindler. And also, there was this lady on TikTok who was telling her story. Her name is Risa Tisa or something like that. I don't know if anybody saw that. But she was telling her story about what her relationship experience was like, and it got millions and millions of views. And and I thought that was interesting, right? But this kind of thing happens a lot. All right, what else? So a lot of oh, sorry, in the Tinder Swindler, that's how he got their money. He did stuff similar to this guy. Like, here's the thing that's interesting, right? In terms of the sophistication of some of the scams, a lot of them will do things that will get rid of any doubts you may have. Like, so the fact that this guy sent her a $100,000 check and the check cleared is something that really, and for many people, that would give a tremendous credibility. You'd say, "Oh, well, it's real. Like, look, the check cleared," right? And so this is another level of scamming where it's sort of like they are in making an investment. Like they're investing. Like, I'll put up 100,000 because I believe that's going to lead me to get a million or something like that. Like Bernie Madoff, when he ran his Ponzi scheme, the largest Ponzi scheme in American history, there were lots of people who were making money for a very long time. And what happened, what he knew, and what a lot of people know, is that because people are greedy, if they're making a little bit of money, then they can tempt you to invest even more next time. They can tempt you to, triple, quadruple your investment next time. And then that's when they're going to get you is on the big investment, not the smaller ones, right? So you got to watch out for that too, right? Remember that typically this is why I say that your biggest enemies in investing are fear and greed, right? Fear and greed, because greed will make you just you'll start fantasizing like, "Oh, I made 5,000. If I do more of this, I can make 50,000 next time, and 100,000 after that, and a million after that." And I've always been a believer in not chasing waterfalls. Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to, because a lot of times you can be sucked into something that isn't good for you. So prudence is key here. All right, moving on. There's something called identity mirroring where they study. And this is what gold diggers do this a lot with professional athletes and rappers whose consciousness isn't very high. They pretty much. I had that fascinating conversation in 2009 with a lady who worked with the women that she claimed scammed NFL star Lawrence Taylor, where they would drug men. They would they would meet them in the club, and they knew that these men would just sleep with anything that moves. So they would put a drug in his drink, and then they blackmail him because they had a 15-year-old in their group with a fake ID, of course, and they would put the 15-year-old in the bed, and they would basically take pictures, and they would threaten to send the pictures to their wife, to their team, and to the media. And because they knew that the public was going to believe the simple story, oh, this guy was sleeping with a 15-year-old, when really it was all sort of orchestrated, right? And one thing that she said was that they would study athletes and rappers to figure out what they like, whether they like fast, easy sex, because they knew that that was the easiest way to get a man to do something stupid. Just offer him, something in the bedroom, and you see men lose hundreds of millions of dollars over this due to a lack of consciousness. You're behaving like a freaking monkey, so therefore they're going to treat you like a monkey. Monkeys get outsmarted. Monkeys are not very intelligent. Monkeys don't go to college. So if you go through your life and you're behaving like a monkey, then you're going to end up in some monkey business, and you're going to have some monkey ass problems. Not because you are human and you like women, but because you don't exercise discernment. You're not a good investor. Before you invest, you must investigate. And so when you have something to lose, whether you are a successful black woman with a big 401k, or a black man who, made $10 million on his record deal, you can't just go deal with any and everybody just because that situation makes you feel good. You got to take your time, and you can't even trust yourself. I mean, forget trusting other people. You can't even trust yourself. If you have a vice, if you have something that something that really gets, like a really tall man with a deep voice just gets you, then you better back up. You gotta get away from that so you can make a rational decision. Or if it's, a certain kind of woman, like, so ultimately consciousness, in my view, is really about sort of gaining that emotional intelligence to be able to realize, like, you know what, I'm a little drunk right now. This is not the time for me to make the decision. So, in fact, actually, let me move to the next section where I'll give you some tips on how to kind of avoid situations like this. Because there's something else called sunk cost pressure too. People don't want to admit that they're wrong about somebody. So a lot of times people will, even when they see all the red flags. Has anybody ever seen that, where you've been in a situation where you knew the red flags were everywhere and you knew it didn't seem right, but you kept going because you just wanted to believe that you didn't want to believe that you were that stupid? Anybody go through that? I'm raising my hand because I've done that before. I got scammed. I got scammed bad. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. Not like from in a woman thing, but I'm sure that's probably happened if I think about it. This is actually where this is how I lost 1.2 million Facebook followers because of this. And it was, and they executed it perfectly. And the thing was, in hindsight, I saw red flags, and my friend got taken in by the same type of scam. He lost 250,000 followers. Apparently, I didn't even know that that was a thing. People run around stealing people's Facebook pages, but apparently they can do that. And so yeah, I had about 3.5 million followers total, and now I got like 2 million. I lost a lot. And um and I look back on that and I felt so stupid. I was so mad at myself. I was so mad at myself. And but I also had to look at myself and say, okay, we gotta take our lumps and learn. And I think that because scamming is so prevalent and it's getting so sophisticated, it's just almost to the point where I just don't really know. I don't know if I trust anything outside of my bubble. Or if it's outside the bubble, I'm gonna really take my time and assess it because there's just so many sneaky ways, so you don't want to be paranoid, but my gosh, it's just like, why do people do this kind of stuff? So anyway, here are some things you can do to minimize the chances bad things will happen. One is they recommend that you slow everything down on purpose. See, a lot of scammers rely on emotional speed. And this is whether you're talking about a car salesman trying to sell you a car, or a dude trying to get you to wire him $50,000 so he can deal with his situation quickly. Um, they rely on you making a snap decision because you are in a situation of urgency. So what you do is you slow it down. You say, you know what, that I'm sorry I can't help you right now. I need to go talk to this other person. I can't buy this Mercedes because I got to talk to my spouse. Or I need 3 days to really think about it. Right. That becomes the kryptonite of of the manipulator, because they know that the science shows that when you're pushed to an emotional decision very fast, you're going to make the wrong decision, and but that's not good. Then that's not good for you at all, right? So ultimately, you just slow everything down. Like, hey, look, we're moving kind of fast. How about we take time to get to know each other, right? That kind of thing, right? And someone, I see Cass says that a pilot friend told me he flew a celebrity to Florida, and the celebrity convinced him to invest $60,000 into a nightclub business and stole the money. Yeah, yeah, that's another. People don't know that there are a lot of celebrities who scam people, because when you meet your favorite celebrity, you're very emotional and you're attached to their work, and you're excited about meeting this famous person, and you don't want to lose this person as your friend. So they use there are celebrities out there that will use that to their advantage. I have seen it way up close. Way, let me just say, I can't, I'm not gonna say no names, but I've seen it like this. Like, you look the devil right in the eye. I was right there and I saw it, and I didn't like it. It made me mad. Anyway, let's keep going. Separate romance from money. No matter how strong you have of a connection you have, love does not need your bank login. You do not need my bank account for me to show you that I care about you, right? And I think that that's a principle, especially when you have lots of resources and you're dealing with people that have less than you or whatever. If we like each other, why do we have to invest together right away? Maybe long term, maybe after we've been kicking it for 4 or 5 years or something, then that's a conversation, but it ain't gonna happen in the first 3 months. I'm sorry. I'm not interested, right? What else? Real world verification is something that they recommend, in not just video calls, because those can be faked. Now there could be somebody sitting there, there could be a Chinese man sitting here pretending to be Boyce Watkins in the Zoom, and you would think that it was me, because they've now got tools to do that. So real life matters, real life meetings, um, and what they say is that basically, and this is something I've seen this too. If people keep making excuses as to why they can't meet you in person, there's always a reason why. That's another red flag you can't ignore. I know it kills the fantasy, but it's the universe is telling, God is trying to tell you something. What else? A third party reality check, having a friend review the situation and maybe meet the person, check it out, and give you their assessment. That can help a lot. Especially if it's a trusted friend or a therapist, or if it's a financial thing, get a financial advisor involved. Somebody that's going to look at it with a critical eye from the outside. And if the person overreacts, that tells you a lot right there. That tells you that they're looking to get to you, and they don't really want this outsider out there. And I remember, one of the worst things to ever invest in most of the time is a timeshare unit. In fact, the only way I would get a timeshare is if I went to one of those sites where people are so disgusted with their timeshares that they sell them for pennies on the dollar. I would go there and buy a timeshare, but I would not pay full price for a timeshare. There's no evidence anywhere that I've ever seen anywhere that says that investing in timeshares at full price is a good move. That's one of the worst financial moves you can make, and leads to lots of regret. The overwhelming majority of people that I've seen regret investing in their timeshare. So here's the thing. I remember, but here's the thing: the timeshare people, they're the best salespeople ever, ever. If you've ever run into anybody running those timeshare people, like you don't even want to make eye contact. Like they'll say good morning, and next thing you know, they got you sitting down for a whole presentation, or they'll show you where the elevator is just so they can talk to you. So how long you staying? Leaving right now. I'm not staying here at all. I'm the janitor. Like, the minute they ask me, like, so how long you in town? None of your business. Why are you asking me? That Stop it. Right. So, but you know what's funny? I was in Costa Rica with my wife last week, and we went by, and it was Marriott, and the lady, because it was the hotel my wife's gonna have her retreat at, and there was a lady there that was the timeshare lady. And we walked by, and I said, "Hi." And she said, "Hello." And I said, "Wait, that was the timeshare lady." And she didn't stop us and say, like, how long are you staying? Or hey, so what do you think about the hotel? Like, she didn't, she just said hello. I said, she ain't gonna get no sales like that, right? Like, I remember thinking, she ain't doing what the timeshare, but I said, but it's so nice that I want to go buy something from her just because I appreciate the fact that she didn't harass the hell out of me. Right? She wasn't catcalling me from the lobby. And so anyway, I remember somebody trying to sell me my sister a timeshare, and I was watching it because I'm impressed with their sales ability, and I wasn't planning on buying nothing. I was just watching his whole process. I was like, wow, that was really good how he killed that objection. Like, this is really interesting. These people are good, and then eventually he got to the point where I just said, I just said no. And then he asked again, and I said no. And he's like, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't want it, and because I know how it works. I know that if I say like, well, I don't want it because it costs too much. Well, affordability is relative, and we can change it. They got a response for all that, right? So just so you know, just a little tip: if you are ever in a sales pitch and they're trying to get you to buy something, and you want to say no, just say no. That's it. Just say, and they say why? Say just because I don't want it. Don't say, well, because I don't know if I have enough time, or I don't know if the cost is low. They already got all that targeted out, but they can't. If you just say no, then that's different, right? So I just said no, and then he asked me again. I said no again, about 4 or 5 times, and then here's the funny thing. So then they looked over at my sister because they were like, "Oh, well, we can't get him because he's a brick wall. We're gonna go to the woman. We're gonna go to," right." And my sister, it was so funny. She pissed them off too because so they started telling her, "Well, maybe this is good for you, and you can do da 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 da, da, right?" And my sister, um, you know, we had the kind of family where you had men, real quality, solid men that you could really trust. Like she grew up with my father, who was like just he wasn't no weak little man. He was a solid. She felt safe with him, right? Like kind of what we all should do as dads, I think. So with me, she transferred that. She just says to the guy, she goes, I'm gonna do whatever he does. They were like, yeah. And I remember thinking, that's a good job, sis. I'm glad I earned your trust. So we left. We had to sneak out. We had to sneak out because they kept on trying to delay us and all that. And so anyway, long story short, the emotion of consumption is big. Their goal is to get you emotionally connected to something, and then next thing you know, you spend money, but so that in some cases it's not so sinister. Sometimes they may be selling you something that's not so bad, right? Something that you may not regret. But then you get to the extreme of that, and then the manipulation, where someone's going to take your money and disappear. That's when it becomes terrible. So bringing in the third party can help. Taking that time to step away for a little bit can help. If you're talking about romance situations, there's no excuse, or what is it? There's no substitute for real life. You got to meet the person in real life, because remember, 76% of all communication is nonverbal. So if all I'm doing is talking to you on the phone, then I'm missing out on the majority of what you're really trying to say to me. Also, you should look at how they react to boundaries. So healthy people, they respect your boundaries, they respect your limits. Scammers will push against your boundaries. They'll use guilt, lots of pressure. They'll emotionally withdraw, or they'll use a sense of urgency to get you to violate your boundaries. Boundaries are very important, so you can learn a lot about people by watching how they respond to your boundaries. If someone, and I think that it gets even more serious when you think about people like Robin Simpson, who was a member of this community, the B1 community, and who was murdered by her husband in Houston a year and a half ago. She was stabbed over 100 times by her husband in front of their daughter Essence, who was 8 years old at the time. And I met her husband, and I met Robin. I met them at the 2019 All Black National Convention. So this led me to really explore how many people are killed in domestic relationships, and in a lot of situations I've seen women who were doing well financially harmed by men who just for whatever reason were mentally unstable in some way. And the situations will vary, and it's not to put it all on men, because I believe I'm a believer in equality. I believe women can be abusive to men too, just not typically physically. But I think I've seen scenarios where men have been abused by women, even though people act like that can never happen. I believe it can happen. And I think about another situation the same year where there was this is a true story. A friend told me the story. There was a lady who she made about $6 million a year, and she ended up marrying a guy who worked like 2, 3 layers below her in her company. He worked for her, but he did some simple job, and I guess it was like a fixer upper type situation. And he'd done some time in prison. he'd also overcome a drug addiction. And we like to believe that, second chances are for everybody, which is fine to a point, but I do believe drugs can do irreparable damage to the brain. I do believe that. That's why I never wanted to touch something like cocaine, because from what I hear about it, it just unleashes something that never goes away. Like that dopamine hit, you never stop craving that, right? And so anyway, long story short, this guy, everything was fine for a while. And then I think that when he started to struggle and get stressed and his business started failing, he turned back to the drugs. And that's when things got a little bit crazy. Like people act like drugs and mental illness are disconnected. I think they're deeply connected. Rob Reiner, anybody know Rob Reiner, who was murdered by his son recently? Rob Reiner had a son who was on all these psychiatric meds, and all they're talking about are the meds, and his meds were off balance and blah blah blah. But he also, used drugs, and Hollywood has a heavy drug culture. They damn near celebrate it, and I would say that drug use disrupts your chemical imbalance. So if you didn't have a mental illness before you started using drugs, does not surprise me if you have one after, because you're not supposed to have that crap in your body. But anyway, I'm not here to be judgmental, so let's move on. Let's make sure we get back to the financial side. But this woman who was making 6 million a year, dating the guy that used to be on drugs, he got back on the drugs, and his behavior got more and more erratic. Because a lot of times, the more I learn about trauma and stress, the more I realize that if you are recovering, let's say from drugs, and then you're going through a stressful, traumatic situation, bad relationship, business fails, then the likelihood of you having a relapse is pretty high, right? So that just made things even worse. So eventually she left the guy, and I think the way she got killed was he called her and said, I want to talk. I want to have one more meeting. And so she agreed to have one more meeting to go see him, and they went to the house or whatever, and we're talking. He didn't get the answer that he wanted from her, and she eventually realized she was in danger. She tried to run away, and she got shot in the back as she was trying to get in the car. This is true story. This happened the same year that Robin Simpson was murdered. So we all know that violence is unacceptable. And then also what I'm learning from watching these situations is that sometimes, as much as we want to be compassionate to other people, there are just red flags that just can't be ignored. And also, the more successful you are, the more vulnerable you might be to people seeking to manipulate you and to get something from you. Take it from a person who, I have a little bit of money, a little bit of success, and I've had people do things that I thought were quite unethical to get access to something that they thought they could get from me. Okay. And sometimes they did get it from me. Sometimes they did. So anyway, that's Uncle Boyce talking, but it's also deeply connected to the financial thing, because this lady was doing well financially. And so sometimes we think that if we have the money right, the career right, the education right, that everything's right. No, no, it's a spiritual, psychological process. It's about energy. Like, what's the energy of your whole life? Because I know a lot of people who had all the money in the world and all the success in the world famous, whose lives were absolute chaos and completely falling apart. So keep your energy right, right? Use the money. Money has energy, right? So use that energy to build the right energy, and then protect that energy, and that works out. Let good people in. All right. So anyway, let's keep going. Um, so yeah, that's everything. That's all the points I wanted to make. Yeah. So boundaries, third party reality checks, real world verification, meet the person in real life. Romance ain't got to be finance. They could be disconnected. They ain't got to be the same. And slowing everything down intentionally really makes a difference. All right. So anyway, just a reminder, Chanel is in the chat. She has the link to Coin. If you still want to join us for Coin, I forgot to mention that. I'm so sorry, Chanel. Forgive me. But yeah, we met last night for Coin, our first stock options class. We did an hour and a half. We're going to go 6 total weeks. Everything's recorded, so it's not too late to join. If you still want to join, she has the link, and she put the link in there in the chat for anybody that wants to participate. And also, let's go to the gram one more time. I want to show you all one more thing. There's a whole lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. So and I addressed some of it on my Instagram. You can check it out if you want to, but that's not appropriate for this class. But there's some real interesting stuff happening right now. All right, so let me show this. This was done by a guy on our team named Christian Kegler. Christian is a filmmaker, and he used AI to make a film that I thought was pretty interesting, and I think it sort of speaks to legacy and what we aim for as Black people. It's a little more on the serious, dramatic side, but it's worth a look. So let me play this for you guys, and let me know if you can hear it. Here it goes.
It's real. It's ours now.
That covers the 3 melons. Much obliged.
Every melon I sold was a step further from the whip. Every wagon, every hand paid honest wages. It all built this, a land worked in freedom and ownership.
Damn them. They don't deserve freedom.
What are you doing? Get out of here.
There will always be people who try to stop us from building a living for ourselves, because independence threatens those who profit from our dependence. But they will never stop us from building a legacy for our future generations.
Right here. You see this line? That's the creek. Our land starts on this side, runs all the way to the oak stand. Your mom and I worked years to make it ours. One day, it'll be yours to keep.
They told us survival was enough, that making it through the day was victory, but survival dies with the body. I learned early that what truly frightens the world is not a free man, but a free man who builds something that lasts. That's how tomorrow remembers that we were here.
All right. So shout out to Christian Kegler, reminding us of the importance of legacy. And so it looks like the story Christian was telling, which AI is allowing storytellers to really do their thing. He's a really great, Christian's a great filmmaker, a great photographer. He's worked with us for a few years now. And so he's an example of how if you are creative, you shouldn't see artificial intelligence as a replacement for you. It's just an extra tool. It lets you get more things done faster. Now you can make that blockbuster film that you always wanted to make that would have cost $100 million 10 years ago. Now there are tools that can help you get that done. And so shout out to Christian. I encourage you. I'll find his Instagram if you want to follow Christian. And also, we have an AI group at the AI Empire Society, run by Micah Smith, one of the leading AI experts. And you can go to AIEmpiresociety.com if you'd like to learn how to do things like this, whether it's making a film or making money or using various intelligence models. It's all out there, and we're on the forefront of that. And remember, our word for AI is not to, we want to know it and we want to own it. So you own the stocks, you own the companies that are going to make money from AI, like Oklo. That's one that a lot of you own. And there are many others. But then you know it. You got to know the tools because the world ain't going backward. So the word is known. We've known AI. You know it and you own it, right? So here's Christian's Instagram. If you wanted to go follow him, that's him. He's got the big afro and stuff. You can see, doesn't he look creative? Look at that. Look at that. You can't have an afro like that and be an accountant, right? So anyway, that's his name. It's spelled without a H. It's CRI. And this is some of Christian's stuff, and so he does a lot of good stuff on his Instagram page. So we got to support young brothers that are doing good stuff out here. So and Christian's one of them. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take off, guys, and I wish you a wonderful Friday. If you'd like to join us for Coin, Chanel put the link in the chat. Also, if you'd like to join us for the Stock Option Summit, which starts tomorrow, I'll put that link in there too. And if you want to get notified when we meet for class in the morning, we do this every single day, 7 days a week, because your obstacles and enemies don't take days off, and so neither should you. And so if you'd like to be notified, just text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948, and I'll send you the link. And so hopefully I'll see you guys at the summit tomorrow morning, and I'll talk to you then. Take care, everybody. God bless you. Bye bye.